This time, the chair will entertain nominations for the chairman for next year's meeting. Who would like to volunteer? Representative O'Toole, you're recognized.
I nominate Representative Metz. We need to replace it with a representative. That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Metz, I move.
Okay. Yes, and the nomination's made and seconded. Is there any objection? Then show Representative Larry Metz has been elected to our new to be the chairman for next year. Let's have a vice chair nomination. Representative Nelson, would you like to nominate Senator Hugel? Or
I would love
to. Okay. Would anybody else like to nominate anyone else or second that nomination? Okay, it's made and seconded without objection. Show that Senator Dorothy Hugel is now our vice chair. All right, thank you. And it's my privilege. I'm Alan Hayes, in case any of you were wondering. I am officially the chair, but folks, I'm just an informal sort of guy. So please don't take anything I say today as being flippant or disrespectful at all. But I believe in having fun, or let's don't even come to work. But nevertheless, we have some very serious business to do, and we strive to do the best we can for the people of Lake County while we're in Tallahassee. And it's great to be a part of a team of legislators who actually like each other. And believe it or not, we see from other sections of the state fierce rivalries and dislike for certain legislative members in their own delegation. But the people of Lake County are very fortunate to have 5 legislators here who like each other, respect each other, and get along as friends, as well as legislators. And we have 2 new members to the delegation this year. Representative Brian Nelson is from Apopka. He has served in the House for several years, 6 to be exact, and I'm going to let him tell you more about Brian Nelson and his House district.
Thank you, Senator Hayes. Yes, Brian Nelson, now District 31, formerly District 38. My old District 38 was 100% in Orange County. The new district, District 31, is now parts of Apopka, now Mount Dora, Eustis, Tavares, and Umatilla. So I am a chairman of insurance and banking in the House. I've been for the last 2 years, and then chairman again this year. So a lot of issues as we deal with the CAT Fund, Citizens, and FIGA, which I know have always been important to Senator Hayes and will continue to be my area of focus. I also sit on government operations. I sit on the healthcare enactment as we look at what to do with the Affordable Health Care Act, how we implement it. Also on the Regulated Industries Committee. So look forward to representing here in Lake County, and look forward to a great delegation meeting. Thank you, Senator Hayes.
All right, thank you. And one of my classmates in the legislature back in 2004 when I was elected to the House was none other than at that time Representative Dorothy Hugel, and she is now Senator Dorothy Hugel, and we're going to have you as part of the Lake County delegation as well. Tell us about Senator Hugel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm so delighted to be here. Yes, my name is Dorothy Hugel, and I am the senator from District 8, which includes parts of Volusia County, Marion County, and Lake County. I'm actually a resident of Volusia County, Port Orange. I've served 8 years in the House, along with Senator Hayes. And what's even more unusual is that every single one of the people here has served before, either in the House or in the House. So we all know each other, we respect each other, we work together very, very well. And I'm so happy to join Chairman Hayes in the Senate. With me today, I have 2 people who are holding down the fort in my office. I have my legislative assistant, who is Lindsay Swindle, who's sitting in the audience. Just raise your hand, Lindsay. And Edith Little, who is our executive district secretary. Both served with me in the Florida House and now have moved over to the Senate. And we have 2 other people who will be serving also Lake County. Our offices are located in Volusia in Port Orange. That's our main office, and our other office is located in Ocala, the City of Ocala City Hall. So I look forward to joining this delegation and to working on behalf of the citizens of Lake County. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Hugel. Representative O'Toole, you're a veteran of this delegation, but your district has changed. assignments have changed. How about tell us about Representative O'Toole?
Yes, sir. I currently have District 33. It was once 42. It has portions of Lake County. It has all of Sumter County and portions of Marion County. I serve on 4 committees. I serve on the Government Ops Committee. I am the Vice Chair on Education Appropriations. I sit on the Full Appropriations, and I'm the Chairman of Education Committee. And I'm busy. And I'm just glad to be here and see all these familiar faces, and I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody. I'm very pleased with the delegation, because I think what Senator Hayes said is true. We get along, we respect one another, and that's the first step we need to serve you the way you ask us to serve you. So I'm delighted to be here, and thank you.
Thank you. Representative Metz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My district number now is District 32. It used to be 25, and I used to be in 3 different counties. But now I'm wholly within Lake County, and District 32 has all of Leesburg in it. And then as you go south on the 27 corridor and you get to Okahumpka, you would go across there to Yalaha, Howie, and Asatula. And then everything south, all those communities and everything south in Lake County, the entire South Lake area, is in new District 32. I have a new district staff as well. Jennifer Wiley's here. Would you please stand, Jennifer? She's the district aide, the one who will be addressing if you have any local constituent issues or anything of that nature. My legislative aide, Sarah Pennington, is here. She'll be assisting with legislative matters. And the office is in the Cherry Lake Public Safety Annex in Groveland. It's the fire station in the Cherry Lake subdivision, for lack of a better description. And there was a suite of offices that was going to be a police substation, and they didn't use it for that, so we ended up working that out with the city of Groveland. We've got a great location there in the heart of District 32. And we're looking forward to a very productive meeting today, and welcome you to come down to our open house in District 32 on January 31st. We're having that in the evening around 5:30, I believe it is. We're going to get an invitation and a release out on that. But if you're interested in coming down on the 31st to see where we are, we'd love to have you down. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I'm pleased to introduce my staff right down here on the front row. Anne-Marie Norman has been with me for the last 8 years. She served with me all 6 years in the House, and these 2 years she mans our offices in the villages. And then with the 2 blondes, the one on my left, your right, is Renee Hodges. She is currently in our Umatilla office, but will be moving to the Claremont office, which will be in City Hall. As soon as we get everything set up down there, we're working with the Senate administration to get all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. That is our plan, and we'll certainly let everybody know when we have that. And then to her left is Jessica Crawford, our newest team member. Jessica works in our Umatilla office, and she, along with Nancy Cornwell, who's not able to be with us today, will be in Tallahassee, working up there as well. And then we also have Mr. Mike Matchett, who has been our volunteer and very much appreciated. Many times when you call, you might speak to Mike because he answers the phone probably most frequently, but Mike does a tremendous job for us, and we really appreciate what he does. He's had some health issues right now, so he's not with us today. But if you see Mike around the community, please tell him that you heard that we appreciate him, because we certainly do, and the ladies do too. Okay. One thing, I just want to read this announcement here. Any citizen who is not on the agenda and wishes to address the delegation must fill out an appearance or comment card prior to speaking. The appearance cards are located at the entrance and down here with my legislative staff. Am I correct, ladies? There's somebody back there in the back also. Okay. Members, are there any... The one thing I forgot, my new Senate district number is 11. I previously had parts of Seminole and Volusia County. I now have none of those 2 counties. But my district now runs from the Lake County-Polk County line all the way north to State Road 40 on the east side of Ocala. Silver Springs is in Senate District 11. And then from I-75 south of Ocala to the Wekiva River on the east side of the boundary. And there's some little wiggly lines here and there, but you can look on the map if you like to see all the wiggly lines. But that's the general statement of Senate District 11. I am going to cheat and read the committees on which I serve, because I have 9 committees. And Larry, we'll get your committees in a minute. Well, okay, we'll clean it up, ladies. I've been appointed to be the chair again of the General Government Appropriations Committee. We oversee the budget for about 16 or 18 different state agencies, the Department of Management Services, the Department of Revenue, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Financial Services, the Office of Insurance Regulation, the Department of Environmental Protection, the Fish and Game Commission. All those folks, their budgets come through our committee. I'm the vice chair of the Children, Families, and Elder Affairs Committee. I'm wondering if the gray hair or lack of hair is what got me on the Elder Affairs Committee. But then I'm also the vice chair of the Governmental Oversight Committee. I'm a member of the Commerce and Tourism Committee, the Appropriations Committee, the Banking and Insurance Committee, the Justice Appropriations Committee, and the Legislative Budget Commission as well. That is an agency which oversees the management of the budget when the legislature is not in session, shifting funds from one agency to another and authorizing modifications to the budget, things like that, for the Legislative Budget Commission. With that, I already have my phone turned off. If any of you have forgotten to turn your phones off, you're certainly welcome to do so now. And with that, Representative Nelson, did you tell us all your committee assignments?
Yes.
Okay. Senator Hugel, how about?
I'll just abbreviate. I have a total of 8 committees, but most importantly, I am chairman of Finance and Tax. I sit on the Full Appropriations Committee, the Subcommittee on Education Appropriations, and 5 other committees. So, yeah, we're real busy.
Representative Mays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I serve on 5 committees: Judiciary, Civil Justice Subcommittee, which I'm the chairman of this year, and then the Justice Appropriations Subcommittee, Choice and Innovation Subcommittee, which is an education policy subcommittee under Chairman O'Toole's Education Policy Committee, and then finally the Select Committee of Claims. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Representative O'Toole.
I told you all my committees, but I forgot to introduce my aide. My legislative aide is Josh Blake. Josh, please stand. You call my office for legislative affairs, you'll get Josh. The district secretary is Dana Coleman, and she's not in today, but that's who you reach when you call our office, and we are in the Village Green up in the Villages. Soon to open another office down in the Bushnell area. And stay tuned. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And I'd also like to introduce our County Commission Chair, Leslie Campione. Thank you for being here. I'm sure we'll hear from you later on. And I saw Senator Baker, but I don't see him any. Oh, there he is right down there. Okay, yeah. Former Senator Kerry Baker, who is now our Lake County Property Appraiser. Thank you for being here. And with that, I'll apologize to anybody I failed to introduce and should have. And let's welcome Dr. Chuck Mojok, the President of Lake Central State College. Jonathan, you can start your 3 minutes now if you will, please.
Thank you. Let's synchronize our watches here. Good afternoon. And on behalf of our trustees, faculty, students, we want to welcome you, the delegation, and all our guests here joining us today at Lake Sumter State College. It's an exciting time as we celebrate our 50th anniversary and initiate our first bachelor's degree classes this January. Your support over the years really has been instrumental in helping Lake Sumter achieve its mission. And we'd like to share with you a few things about the upcoming session. The Florida college system is developing something called the Florida First in Education Performance Initiative. And this is in response to the governor's call to action for putting Floridians back to work. It has 4 components. The first in preparation for careers, being first in success and completion, first in access and affordability, and first in accountability. The paper that we provided to you has a lot of details about this. I won't go into it, just highlight a few things in the interest of time. First, on careers, Lake Sumter State College has already begun work on an innovative project called the Sumter County Partnership for Workforce Innovation and Education. We have enlisted the support of major public and private sector employers in the partnership to address the unique challenges posed by the demands of meeting the unique workplace needs of the booming Villages retirement community served by a relatively rural population in Sumter County, but they depend on for labor. And there is no post-secondary workforce facility in the county. I have attached an executive summary in your package that has further details, but briefly, the partnership will leverage local resources to plan and implement critical training in the fields of healthcare, public safety, technical and business services, and trades needed to support the community. The LSCC District Board of Trustees has committed $500,000 from reserves for seed money, and the Sumter County Schools and Sheriff's Office have offered space to house programs, so we don't need facilities. What we do need is startup funding for equipment, for faculty and staff to plan the center, the programs, and make sure everything comes together. We hope to launch in fall of 2013. The cost we estimate for startup for 6 programs would be about $2 million. A second area that's important for funding for Lake Sumter, we have the unenviable position of being the 3rd lowest funded of the 28 colleges in the system. And with Pasco, Hernando, and Edison are well below the state average. If this program is funded that we're recommending, we would receive about $1 million in funding. Third area is dual enrollment. You all know how important dual enrollment is. Again, this is basically an unfunded scholarship program, and the colleges are absorbing that cost. Statewide, it's about $50 million. For Lake Sumter, it's been $1.2 million. So we need your help in that. And I want to thank you for having us here. You know about the college name change, and I believe Representative Betts and Representative Hayes are already drafting that. We thank you for your support of that issue as well.
All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate all the good work that you and your staff and faculty and students are doing out here, we're proud to claim y'all in Tallahassee.
All right.
Okay, Dr. Susan Moxley, for our Superintendent of Lake County Schools. Welcome, Ms. Moxley. Thanks for being here. You're
Thank you so
recognized.
much. Thank you for the opportunity that you've given us today to come and share some information about Lake County Schools. We have provided a booklet for your reference in the upcoming weeks that will give you some additional information. I want to assure you that your professional Lake County teachers, administrators, support staff, and school board members have joined together as a team of 5,000 strong, serving 41,000 students so that they will all graduate college and career ready. We have a logo that says, "Are you C2 ready?" which stands for Common Core and College and Career Readiness. I'm here today to ask you to join us in our efforts in ensuring that we have a high-quality educational system that successfully prepares our students and can provide that positive link for an economically healthy community. In 2014-15, the new park assessment will be administered. All statewide assessments will be online. There will be inclusion of digital content and materials on the horizon, and the implementation of new salary schedules based on student performance as a major part of compensation and continued employment. We embrace and support these requirements. However, there are several challenges requiring extra time and flexibility in order to do it right. The development of valid, reliable, and legally defensible end-of-course assessments for all courses where the current timeline is not realistic and problematic. Because there's no standardized method for developing these assessments across the state, reliability and consistency among districts is questionable. Teachers' professional careers and salaries are based on these assessments and could unfairly be jeopardized. It must be done right. The technology infrastructure and sustainability for online assessments and the delivery of digital content must be fully integrated. This is a costly endeavor with lots of work to be done. Again, time is of the essence. The accountability system has several components that are intertwined and interdependent. If not done correctly, the result could be inefficient and costly to the taxpayers. We can avoid this by taking a systemic review of the connectivity of all the requirements and timelines. Florida needs to follow a realistic timeline that will ensure success and instill the confidence of all stakeholders. A possible solution for this is to extend the timeline by 1 to 2 years so the construction of all assessments can be aligned to the Common Core and the park assessment for all teachers that are impacted. If the timelines cannot be adjusted, then it's imperative to delay statutory requirements related to this issue. It is not equitable or reasonable for compensation to be tied to an assessment that does not directly measure the accurate instruction of individual teachers linked to their students. So let's do it right, let's take the time, and have a really strong model that Florida is proud of. Another request that we have comes with the flexibility for Lake County and all districts to adopt the start date of the school calendar. This is mission critical for us. Lake County students not only need, but deserve to have the same access to every instructional minute available in the school year so that they can reach proficiency and be on track for college and career readiness as other districts in the state of Florida who were able to start a week or two earlier. We need to align our instructional calendars to end the semester at winter break and to the community college schedule for our dual enrollment students. We also request that school districts be provided flexibility with the additional class size that is similar to charter schools who are able to meet class size rules and regulations with school-wide averages. This will provide some financial relief and allow us to do some of the technology things that we need to do that are on the horizon and right to do. So our request is realistic timelines and flexibility with the calendar and class size reduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for what you're doing on a daily basis, too.
Thank you.
Please express our appreciation to your fellow staff members and the faculty especially, working under some very trying circumstances, and we do appreciate where their heart is and what they're doing.
Thank you, and I will tell them that, and thank you to all of you.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Moxley? No? Okay, Ms. Roseanne Brandenburg, a school board member and the legislative liaison. I suspect we're going to get to see a lot of you this year.
You do.
All right.
Thank you all very much. On behalf of the Lake County School Board, thank you for this opportunity to share with you our 2013 legislative priorities. I would like to share with you that I'm also the Vice Chair of the Central Florida School Boards Coalition, and we try to align our priorities with the other 9 school districts in our region. I am also blessed to work here at Lake Sumter State College, so you see I am a strong advocate for education. In your booklet on page 3, we have listed our 5 priorities, and I would like to highlight 3 of them. Priority number 1 is to restore the capital outlay tax to the 2007 level of the 2 mills. This was changed to 1.5 mills in 2009 without impacting the operating millage. Lake County schools experienced the need for new schools due to the high growth that our county has experienced. 2 new schools were opened in 2007, 4 in 2008, 2 more in 2010, and Lake Minneola High School in 2011. The last 3 schools were built with cash, were paid with cash, adding no additional debt. The legislative impact to ad valorem capital funding page shows that in 2007, when the millage was at 2 mills, Lake County received $42.8 million. In 2008, when it was reduced to 1.7 mills, we received $38 million. In 2009, when it was reduced further to 1.5, we received $30,700,000. The total reduction over the past 5 years is $38 million. You also notice this year we are expecting to receive $23 million, which is almost half of what we received 5 years ago. The debt on building and opening the 6 schools in 2007 and 2008 was based on receiving the 2 mills. Lake County Schools is ranked 65 out of 67 counties in per student funding, and our school millage rates have decreased to 7.394%. Our priority number 2 is to redistribute available PICO funds to include public schools. For the past 2 years, we have received no funds for maintenance to build our high-tech learning environment infrastructure to meet the digital and online assessment requirements and to replace our aging buses. This has resulted in a reduction in funding that is close to $3 million. Priority number 3 is to adequately fund community colleges for offering dual enrollment programs to our high school students. We have many students who are taking advantage of this program. Not only are they taking classes and AP classes at their high school, many are also taking classes here at Lake Sumter simultaneously. We have more and more students graduating from high school and receiving their AA degree at the same time. This is not an either-or and must be looked at with all parties involved in the process. You can be proud of the progress being made in our public school system, and we ask for your support in helping us to continue to see this increase, to help us so we can prepare our students to be college and career ready. I thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Brandenburg. We appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to start calling 2 at a time because coming down these steps can present a challenge for some of us. It really needs to present caution for everyone, no matter how agile you might be. Next up is Mr. John Cooper, the CEO of Kids Central, the community-based care and child welfare, and then Dr. Dan Holzenbeck will be following him. So, Mr. Cooper, thank you for being here. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Never before has our agency been so challenged. The difficult economic times have had a profound impact on the children and families that we serve. Even as a nation, as we work through recovery, families are still struggling. In Kids Central, we represent a 5-county area: Lake, Marion, Sumter, Citrus, and Hernando. We have over 1,100 children in foster care, over 300 children in foster care in Lake County. In the 5-county circuit area, we have 165 foster homes, representing about 290 to 295 beds. About half of our children are with relatives, and about 20% of the children are in a residential or group home type setting. The majority of our removals for children coming into foster care are related to parental substance abuse. In the 90s and the 80s, crack cocaine was the trend. In the 2000s, meth was the trend. Today, our agency is plagued with prescription drug abuse. I highlight foster parents and substance abuse this afternoon to align those with 2 of the 3 internal priorities I have. First is increase and enhance our foster parent network. The second is re-engineer our service delivery system to make sure families receive the appropriate level of intervention. And third, continue to make sure that I shift as much budget as possible to services and keep our agency lean and efficient. So how can the Lake Delegation help Kids Central? Last year, Kids Central lost more than $2 million in a fundamentally flawed equity formula. So what does that mean? Children in our community, in our county, are being treated different than other children in parts of the state. Recently, every community-based care lead agency CEO met, and we all agreed in a consensus manner, probably the first time in history, that the funding formula has caused more harm than good. Later this session, during the spring, the Florida Children's Coalition will present an alternative formula. Kids Central would appreciate favorable consideration. I'd be glad to meet with you or your staff and have detailed discussion about the funding formula. So on behalf of Kids Central and our Board of Directors, I thank you for your service to Floridians and your time and commitment for hearing me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Any questions for Mr. Cooper? I have a personal request. Would you call my office and get a time for you and I to get together? I suspect that funding formula will be on the agenda for the Children and Families Committee on which I serve. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Holzenbeck, the Vice President for UCF. Welcome to Lake County, Dr. Holzenbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go Gators, Mr. Holzenbeck.
Well, I will respond by saying go Knights first and War Eagles second.
Dr. Holzenbeck and I have an orange and blue rivalry between his school, Auburn, and my UF. But,
and
thank
they're
you,
both
sir.
orange and blue.
That's
they?
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you.
You're not counting that on my time, are you?
No, sir. This is entertainment.
Very good. Thank you. And it's a pleasure for me to be here, and I apologize to those of you who have heard me before. This is the 6th one of these meetings I've had the pleasure to represent UCF. As I left the office, one of our staff members says, "Oh, you're going to another delegation. Are there any new faces there?" And I said, "No," and then the person responded and said, "So they're all old members?" I said, "That's not the appropriate word.
Just
familiar faces." So let me say. Seriously, I want to speak very quickly on behalf of UCF, and I want to talk about what I think the issues that you're going to be facing as they relate to higher education. I think there are 3. They're access, process, and success. And in terms of access, as you look at higher ed, and I know one of the words being discussed is reform, when you look at access, please remember what your public university is doing. UCF is the 2nd largest institution in the country. Last year, we produced 12% of all the 4-year degrees produced in the state of Florida from all institutions of any type. About 10% of our graduates are STEM. As a matter of fact, and you really won't believe this unless you see the data, 5 of our 5 largest majors, if you count healthcare, which everybody certainly does, are STEM programs. So we think we're doing our part, and that's a part of our mission. When it comes to process, I think you're really talking about distance education. That's the word we hear, distributed learning. And we will cooperate and work with you to try to enhance that delivery, because it does make education more accessible and in some ways cheaper, but it's not cheaper by definition. At UCF, for example, 32% of all of our credit hours are produced online already. So we don't back up to anyone or any issue when it comes to trying to be more effective and efficient with distance learning. And lastly, in terms of success, I want to talk about impact. There is no question that UCF leads the state in terms of economic development. Senator Huckel, you and I have discussed that many, many times. If you just combine UCF and the Central Florida Research Park, which is one of the 10 largest in the country, together those two entities account for about 45,000 direct and indirect jobs and an economic impact of about $4.4 billion. Now, if you add to that the high-tech corridor, the Growth Florida program, our incubator network, and by the year 2017, because there's still some things under construction in the medical city, if you add all those together, and UCF is the genesis of all those activities I just mentioned to you, if you add them together, UCF will be responsible, directly or indirectly, for over 100,000 jobs and a total economic impact of some $20 billion. So we think we're doing what you want us to do, and we want to continue to work with you to do it better, cheaper, but more effective and more efficiently. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir, and please give our regards to Dr. Hitt. Thank him for his foresight and innovation. Yes, sir, Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Senator. I just wanted to commend UCF and the program. We just opened up an incubator in Popka, and I tell you, for those companies that look like they're fast-growing and have the ability to really add jobs to Florida, it's a great program. I think I know they've got one now in Eustis, and so it's a program. If you haven't been to one of the incubators, for anybody on this panel, I would suggest you go, because it's something that I've been very impressed with one that we have here in Popka. So thank you, Dr. Holmes.
Thank you, sir. And if I may, Senator, respond, we have 10 of those incubator sites. There's not any state dollars invested in them. They were initially supported by the cities and the counties where they're located. And for that public money invested through the cities and the counties, they have generated a 5-to-1 return in taxes generated in those areas. So I will not be shy about approaching you to help us expand that program, because we can prove its return. Thank you so much, Representative.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Holzmack.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we have Ms. Leslie Campione, the Chairman of the County Commissioners, and next up will be the County Manager, Mr. David Heath.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. You're recognized. Appreciate you being here.
On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, and I know I've got several of them here today, Commissioner Parks and Commissioner Sullivan are in the audience. We have provided a notebook, and we ask that you will refer back to that for greater detail, because this is going to be fast and furious. I'm going to go as quickly as I can through these topics. I want to show our wholehearted support for our education partners. We know that it's very difficult to pursue our economic development goals if our education partners can't achieve their goals, and we wholeheartedly support the request that they have put before you today. We have divided our topics up into several categories: economic development, growth management, quality of life, social services, environmental, and public safety. First, in the realm of economic development, we're asking for your assistance as we pursue an east-west connector between Claremont to the State Road 429 Expressway. We need money to get the PD&E study started. This is a huge opportunity to promote a job center in this area. We're working on a sector plan for 16,000 acres in this area, and to get this started in this session would be a gigantic benefit for Lake County and our economic future. Also, we're asking that the legislature will convene an Agenda 21 commission to study the effects of Agenda 21 on our local growth management rules, our state mandates. And I could talk about this topic all day, but I've instructed I've can't do that. But, this has huge implications in Florida. It affects sovereignty, home rule, property rights, and when we feel that we need direction from the state of Florida in order to deal with this on a local level. With regard to quality of life issues, we need your continued support for our libraries, for the state aid to libraries, operating grant appropriations, critical to Lake County. Also, our mosquito control program, we have seen cuts in that area over the years, and we need your continued support. That's a big issue in Lake County. We need to be able to treat the mosquitoes and protect our citizens. And also on the quality of life topics, we're asking for help with our South Lake Trail, which is part of the Central Florida Loop Trail that would connect the West Orange Trail over to the General Van Fleet Trail. So this is a real critical part of that overall network, would be great for the region. In the area of social services, we need help with the SHIP program. This is a program that has made it possible for us to address affordable housing needs in our community, and this has been one of those areas that has not been funded in the past, and it is something very critical for Lake County because of the number of people that we have in our county that need affordable housing, and the opportunities aren't out there. And with a program like this, we're able to address those needs. As well, Challenge Grant and Housing Homeless Recovery Grant. These two grants have been eliminated in the past 2 years, and we need this for our homeless population in Lake County, which is a huge problem in Lake County. And I know that David Heath, our county manager, is next up, and we wondered if he could defer his minutes to me, and I'll get to the rest of our topic. Okay. And also on social services, a really big problem we have in Lake County, and that is we have had to cut back on our transportation for disadvantaged trips to a very vulnerable part of our population. We are not able at this point to provide trips for education and work-related needs. We are only providing medical trips and diet trips, and we're having to prioritize these trips until we are out of money, essentially. We will do what we can do, and then at that point, we simply can't serve our population. We are providing almost 15,000 residents in Lake County with trips to the doctor, to the grocery store, 213,000 trips over the course of the year. But this is an area where if you do not continue to provide these appropriations, we won't be able to provide these services in Lake County. And in the area of environmental problems, we have an underground gasoline storage tank leakage at our county facility that's occurred back in the 1980s. This is continuing to move. It has reached the official aquifer. We have already spent a tremendous amount of money working on this, but we need to go to the next phase of this in order to protect the groundwater. And we're asking for an appropriation to help us with this next phase, and there's a lot of detail about this in our booklet. But this is a critical environmental concern to the county. It's entirely contained on county-owned property, and in order to address this next phase and stop this contamination from going any further and continue the process of actually eliminating it and removing it. It's a long process, but to go to the next phase of this, we need that appropriation. And lastly, under public safety, a kind of unusual request coming out of Lake County, because I think that we are a bastion of the Second Amendment rights in Lake County, but we do have a problem since state law preempted local law on the issue of firearms. We've had some very serious problems with discharges that are affecting adjacent property owners. And we are asking for some relief at the state level to address situations where the discharge of firearms causes a clear and dangerous situation for adjoining property owners. And we understand that this is an area that the state wanted to address without local intervention, but we're having problems, and I would imagine that other legislators across the state are having similar situations. But we have no recourse when our residents call us and they tell us about these very scary situations where bullets are found in the screens of their swimming pools, in their front yards, around play sets and so forth, and there's nothing that we can do about it. So we're asking for your help in that regard.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Yes, Representative O'Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 213 1,000 trips, 100 trips, or whatever it was? What is the cost per trip?
The cost per trip is pretty high. It's about $28 a trip. Now, we are going out for an RFP this coming year to try to get those costs down and roll that into our overall public transportation system. And we're doing all kinds of things to try to encourage folks that otherwise would be picked up at their front door and taken to an appointment to actually use our public transportation and our bus system. So, but it is costly because this county is so large and spread out, and a lot of these trips are out into the rural areas, and so the average cost of a trip is $28 one way.
One way.
Thank you.
I like your idea of looking at the buses. So frequently, I see buses with 0 people in them except the driver, and that's I think a gross waste of money. But we got to
And we've
do
had a lot of
something.
success in actually using a computer program to identify where people are originating and where they're going on these trips and how we can possibly time our trips so that we're able to get more people on one vehicle so that we're getting that cost per trip down. So we're working hard at it, but we won't be able to continue the program and address this need if we don't have the appropriation.
On the fuel spill, are those tanks is it one tank leaking or multiple tanks, and are they double wall tanks?
Jim?
There are no tanks leaking. They leaked 20 years ago.
Okay, so this is like a contaminated site cleanup that you want?
Yes.
Okay.
There's nothing going on right now. It's something that came up in 1999, and we've been working with the state ever since, but it takes a lot of money to get on these things.
Do you know where this site is on the long list of the waiting list at DEP?
No, sir. We got some funds earlier in the program about 6-7 years ago, and we do have a containment ring around it. What we need to do is pump out the free product on top of the water table, which is right on the site, and that's what this money would be, is to get it off it so we don't have this long-term process. We can actually shorten our time frame of dealing with this. Instead of 20-30 years, we can deal with it within about 5-10.
Mr. Stammer, if you do me a favor, let's get together.
Yes, sir.
And talk about this in detail.
We'll do.
I don't like free fuel sitting on top of the water table.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campion. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Mr. Heath, you were preempted. Would you like to say anything at all?
You covered it nicely.
All right, sir. Thank you. Mr. Don Henderson, President and CEO of Central Florida Health Alliance. And next up will be Mr. Ken Madison of Florida Hospital Waterman. Mr. Henderson, thanks for being here. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Senator Hayes, and thanks to the rest of the delegation. I've met most of you, and nice to see you all again. Just wanted to talk today a little bit about Leesburg Regional Medical Center. As you know, it's one of the larger hospitals in Lake County. We have 322 beds. We employ over 1,500 people in Lake County. Some of the services we offer, I don't know if you knew this or not, but we have the 3rd largest heart surgery program in Florida. We're doing over 700 open heart cases per year, one of the larger programs in the state. We offer neurosurgery. We also offer a very large women's and children's program with over 1,400 deliveries. I wanted to confine my remarks today to the Medicaid program. I've spoken to many of you all individually about what's coming up in the Florida legislature this year. And I wanted to confine my remarks to 3 different areas. One is eligibility. I'm sure Ken will echo this when he gets up here, but we feel very strongly from the Florida Hospital Association and from our individual members that we would like to strongly urge you to consider increasing the eligibility of Medicaid program to the Obama levels, which is 133% of the poverty level. As you know, the impact statewide on this would be an additional 1 million citizens that would be enrolled in health insurance that currently do not have health insurance now. I believe the impact in Lake County would be disproportionately large. At the hospital right now, about 9% of our revenue comes from the state Medicaid program. But of course, we have a large number of folks that also have no insurance that are cared for free in our local community hospital. So we do believe that putting PROPACA, or whatever you want to call the Reform Act, in place in Florida would be very beneficial, and we'll be following up with you on that during the legislative session. The second item we wanted to cover is the payment level for Medicaid. Unfortunately, even historically, the state payments for Medicaid have not kept up with hospital costs. And I'll give you a rough figure so you can sort of get a feel for it. Right now, the general Medicaid payment that we receive is just over $800 per day. We can buy that up through the use of the tax district funds, which I'm sure you're well aware of, to about $1,300 to $1,400 per day. But our costs right now are running about $1,700 per day. So even with the tax district funds, we're running at about 70% of our cost in reimbursement. This will be significant, obviously, as more and more of the population moves into the Medicaid program. And we're also wondering about what the exchange rate will be. My speculation in 2014 is that the Florida citizens that move into the exchange will also get a Medicaid type of reimbursement for the hospitals. So you could say, well, why don't you just simply cut your costs? And if that's what happens, that's what we'll have to do, and all the hospitals will have to do. But given the fact that Leesburg Regional does offer tertiary services such as heart surgery and neurosurgery and advanced women's care, including advanced hospitalist care for newborns, these are things that will all be in the mix as we go forward. The third item I wanted to talk about is the specialty reimbursement, because the state Medicaid program currently recognizes specialty hospital services. Right now, the state Medicaid program pays an add-on for neonatal ICU care, for medical education, and for trauma programs. And the good news, I guess, if there is any, is that our volumes at the hospital are going up. The growth is occurring in Lake County. Our volumes are going up. As we go forward, we have many representatives of our Board of Trustees, which are community members from the local community here today. But as the Board of Trustees and the management team of Leesburg Regional considers new services, we would also like to make the point that it would be very important to recognize these add-ons for specialty care, whether it be medical education, whether it be neonatal ICU care. There is no neonatal ICU in Lake County at the present time, which means that if you need that type of care, you have to drive into Orlando. So these are the types of things that we'd like to urge you to get the eligibility up, if possible, to try to cover as many Floridians as you can, and to also remember that there are some add-ons in the system for specialty services. And I wanted to be cognizant of my 3 minutes, but I'll certainly stop for any questions that you might have.
They left a while ago. Any questions? Would you like for Mr. Henderson to wait around afterwards and give us a more public, or would you like to meet with him individually sometimes? Perhaps that would be a good idea. This one question I have about your term increased eligibility to 133% of poverty levels. Are you saying that when the patient is evaluated for their Medicaid eligibility, that it would be their income must be at least 133%?
Right. Currently, I believe that a family of 4 must make less than $11,000 per year in Florida to qualify for the Medicaid program. Under this new eligibility, I believe that would push up to almost $30,000 for a family of 4.
I have only one question. Where are you going to get the money to pay for it? Yes, sir, Representative Nelson.
Yeah, I think so. I've got some numbers for you I think that are kind of interesting. If we go to the 133% Medicaid, for the first 3 years, the federal government will pick up the tab. But at the end of 3 years, then we're obligated for the 10% of the additional, which will be about $1 billion. So it's free money now, but there is at some point you have to pay for it at the state level.
Well, am I correct in thinking, though, that free money you referred to, is that not tax dollars coming out of the citizen's pocket anyhow?
Yes.
It's just going to Washington before it comes back, right? So there is no such thing as free money. People in Washington might have us think that, but some of us aren't swallowing their line. Okay. Yeah, it's borrowed money. That's exactly what it is. Okay. Perhaps this would be a good time for a little bit of expansion. Mr. Anderson, we're through. Thank you. We have seen, perhaps in the media, reports of the improved tax collections and that our budget's going to be X number of dollars. We're going to be collecting more than we had projected and all that sort of thing. And I'm pretty confident that many people are having visions of restoring those programs which were previously cut in our cost reduction efforts, or new programs. Anyhow, they're having visions of a lot of money being spent this coming year that hasn't been spent the last couple of years. I would caution you, don't take out any loans based on that assumption, because we are facing some very serious price increases, as Representative Nelson just talked about, Both the Senate and the House have committees that are currently working to evaluate the implementation or lack thereof of the so-called Affordable Health Care Act. It depends on who's going to afford it. But nevertheless, they're both working on that to come up with some recommendations for how we handle that situation. Another real factor is the Supreme Court has yet to rule on a lawsuit that if it is not found in the favor of the state, it will cost the state probably $1.3 billion this year. And that $1.3 billion alone will probably eat up all of the increased revenue that we're experiencing. So just as a word of caution, rest assured we're watching every penny up there. But don't count on having great big new programs and multi-million-dollar projects coming down the pipe. I'm just trying to be realistic with you folks and tell you the whole story. Yes, sir. But anything else?
I think one of the bright spots in our budget is that over the last couple of years since Rick Scott has been our governor, we've reduced our overall debt by $2 billion. And we were kind of on a negative trend as far as our bond rating, and now we're on a positive trend. So I think that's the good news.
And our bond rating is still a AAA bond rating. It's not been reduced at all. So that is saving the state millions of dollars as well. So we're not no, I won't even phrase it that way. I'll phrase it positively. Florida is in a good financial condition thanks to good fiscal management up there over the last 10 or 15 years. But we have had some tough decisions to make, no question about it. But we can be proud of the job that has been done there on our budgets. Okay, Mr. Madison. Pardon the interruption, sir. And after Mr. Madison will be Mr. Mark Middlebrook of St. John's River Alliance, CEO of Waterman Hospital. Thank you, sir, for being here. You're recognized.
Thank you very much for what you do and for this opportunity to talk today. First, I want to acknowledge that Florida Hospital Waterman has been here since 1938. It started out as an 18-bed facility. Today, 269 beds, part of the largest not-for-profit healthcare system in the state of Florida, Adventist Health System. We continue to focus on growing to meet the needs of the community. We're a major employer, 1,600 employees. Believe that making sure that our employees' needs are met as an employer is an important part of that. We also believe that we should be a community benefit. And this last year, through the 11 months ended November, our community benefit totaled $22,717,000. On top of that, we spent $14.4 million in capital improvements for the benefit of the community, and we think that's an important note to make. This year we also, through the Connery Creation Health Center, opened a first-time opportunity to truly impact and improve the health status of the community that we serve. Through the gym that's available there, a fitness facility, and also through the demonstration kitchen, we hope to improve the diet of those in our community who have an interest in doing so. We recognize that almost 80% of the diseases that our society is facing is the result of poor choices, and we think that if we help improve choices, we can do a better job. We also operate a free clinic, 3,067 visits, 859 patients. We're focused on an ED or emergency department diversion program to help keep people out of the emergency department for their primary care. If you have an interest in that program, we'd love to give you a tour of that. We know that you're facing important and very difficult decisions as it relates to funding, but I too want to talk just a little bit about the Medicaid program. Over the last 5 years, hospitals in Florida have been cut $1.2 billion in reimbursement for health care. In our particular case, the latest rounds of cuts totaled $4 million, and for our budget, that's a huge amount. I know you've got difficult decisions to make, but I would ask you to recognize the importance of predictability and stability to funding that we need to be able to meet the health care needs of the community that we're called to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. Any questions or comments? Representative Metz.
I believe I heard from Mr. Henderson that LRMC supports the Medicaid expansion under the Obamacare legislation. Has Florida Hospital taken a position on that, either Florida Hospital Central or Fort Waterman?
We recognize that if we can afford it, expanding the eligibility is an important thing to recognize. The Florida Hospital Association is endorsing that. We struggle, though, with, in reality, if we expand that, where do those dollars come from? And if they are cut elsewhere, have we really helped the system? Our concern would be, yes, let's expand eligibility to those we can afford to care for, recognizing that if you're not going to expand that eligibility, you're really putting that burden back on the hospital, because those folk will continue to show up in the emergency department for their care, and the hospitals will end up having to absorb it anyway. It's a dilemma, and I know that you face very difficult decisions, and I would ask that you just recognize the importance of stability and predictability with the funding that we receive.
Okay. Yes, sir, Representative Nelson.
One of the concerns I've heard is that in the Obamacare language is that we've reduced or eliminated the LIP dollars, and the replacement is in the expanded Medicaid eligibility. Is that, and if that's so, can you kind of give me an idea as to how that impacts?
I would be delighted to meet with you individually and talk further about that, and bring with me some information that might be helpful. We, too, are concerned that with the Affordable Care Act now upon us, that we're going to lose some of those expansions or dollars that were available to help bring additional reimbursement. We're concerned that if it goes away, indeed it is going to impact, because any dollar that doesn't come our way is a hit to our ability to provide care in the future. But yes, I would be more than happy.
Well, the question is, have they eliminated the LIP dollars?
No, LIP dollars are still available to us today.
Okay, so that was not part of it.
Until 2014, did I hear someone say?
Yeah.
Okay, so in 2014 they go away, and that's, okay.
That's a concern.
Okay.
That's next year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would welcome anybody who has a reliable source for us to pick up that $1 billion that Representative Nelson was talking about. You know, if we do this expansion, and then 4 years from now, we got to have $1 billion for the state portion of it to pay. So if anybody knows where we can find $1 billion, bring it to the Appropriations Committees. We would love to see that. Until then,
Thank you very much.
perhaps we should go on with Mr. Mark Millbrook, to be followed by Mr. Skip Gurner. Mr. Millbrook is the St. Johns River Alliance from Jacksonville Beach. And I think Mr. Millbrook has taken a leave and asked someone to take his place. Would you introduce yourself, please, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Andrea Conover. I'm a program manager for the St. Johns River Alliance. And Mark is at the Duval County Legislative Delegation.
I see. You drew the traveling straw today.
Exactly. We're making the rounds to go to all the counties that touch the St. Johns River. The St. Johns River Alliance is a nonprofit coalition of 12 counties that touch the St. Johns River, and plus some business and civic groups. And we're non-controversial. We don't do lawsuits. We try and find sources of funding for the St. Johns River. That's our main goal. And we want to thank you for your previous support for the St. Johns River, and let you know some good news from 2012. The St. Johns River was designated as one of America's Great Waters. It's a national coalition. There's about 20 water bodies, Everglades, Mississippi River, Columbia River, Great Lakes, and we think this will give us some increased visibility in Washington, D.C. for some federal programs for waterways. So we're happy about that. And our goals for 2013, we're going to be hosting a river summit in Central Florida in the fall of 2013. We're going to continue to work on selling the St. Johns River license plate, because that provides visibility for the St. Johns River as well as a source of funding for the river restoration projects. And our other main goal is working on promoting ecotourism for the river-based businesses that are along the St. Johns River, to providing jobs. And our main ask for the legislature is for funding of an economic analysis. We'd like to see what the value is of the St. Johns River to Florida's economy. And we hope to see you at the River Caucus, which Senator Thrasher will convene probably sometime in February, I think.
Okay.
Hope to see you all there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Representative O'Toole has a question.
What is the cost of the economic analysis?
Estimated, possibly 400,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thanks for being here. All right, Mr. Gerner, to be followed by Marcia Hilty, the Guardian Ad Litem Program. Mr. Gerner, you're with the Harris Chain of Lakes Advisory Council. You're recognized, sir. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Your time's up. Next.
In front of you is our annual report. Now, we've sent copies to you that also contain a CD. This report that you see is more of an executive summary, so you can read through it in a few minutes and get an idea of what's going on. Let me update you a little bit. This is our 12th report. And when we first started in 2001, Lake Griffin had less than 300 acres of submerged aquatic vegetation. It was compared to Lake Apopka at the time, and also the fishery had completely collapsed. Today, Lake Griffin has 2,700 acres of vegetation, submerged aquatic vegetation, and a bass fishery that attracts fishermen from all over the world. So it's been quite a trip. I'm here today to update you on a couple of things, but also to ask you for some appropriations. In that report, you'll find those appropriations. The first appropriation is a mechanical harvester that we use for nuisance vegetation. In January of 2007, the council purchased a used mechanical harvester using legislative appropriations. The harvester is maintained and operated by the University of Florida's Lake Watch volunteers and used to remove nearshore nuisance vegetation at the request of property owners and homeowners associations throughout Lake County. This program has been very successful at maintaining waterways, and based on the high demand for its services, has proven to be very popular with the citizens of the county. However, the harvester requires significant maintenance and repairs due to its age. Therefore, the council is requesting $275,000 for the current harvester, repairs, and purchase of an additional harvester and associated equipment. This harvester helps in access, as you all know, the quality of the lake has improved, but water has, we just haven't had the amount of water. We have very low water levels throughout the Harris Chain, and access is very difficult, especially people that live on canals. Vegetation grows rampant in those canals, and the only access they have is by way of mechanical harvesting. Okay, now, bass fishing is a $1.5 billion industry in Florida alone. The council continues to support the University of Florida IFAS stocking program. This is a program that we instituted a few years ago, and thousands of bass, quality-sized adult bass, were stocked in the Harris Chain. The results have been positive, and the return on the investment has been estimated in the millions. A single bass tournament brings in over $1 million, a major bass tournament, over $1 million to Lake County. This request is for $225,000 to continue this program. And that's a request that I have, a financial request that I have this year.
All right, Representative O'Toole, you have a question.
If this bass fishing tournaments and so forth are coming in and bringing in that kind of money, and they want to preserve this, is there any
program that you have to maybe kick in some of this money and look for match money?
Well, there hasn't been, we did in the very beginning, we had some of that, but of course, the money has really dried up. The city of Leesburg used to contribute, the Lake County Water Authority was a major contributor, of course, their budget is right down to bare bones. So, really we have to rely on the legislative appropriations. Fish and Game has some programs as well. They have a stocking program where they're trying to introduce a fish a bass that's about 4 inches away. Something that'll survive a little better. The survival rate has not been good. Still needs some review, but they're coming along with that. But for now, the only real program I think that we have is this adult bass fishing program. But it immediately brings a catchable bass into the system. It's not something we have to wait to grow up. These fish, when we stock them, they're ready to spawn. So we've stocked fish well over 10 pounds. So this is this really brought Lake Griffin back, and it brought the fishery back. In 1992, BASS, the organization, stated that they would never come back here again. They'd had the lowest catch rate that they'd ever had in a tournament. Today, we're a true destination, and BASS is back.
If I may follow up with
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
What I was thinking of is that when they come to partake in these tournaments, is there a fee, is there, to do this?
Well, you know what, I'm really not sure of that. What happens when the people come to these tournaments, of course, it's putting their heads in beds, and, the economy is what, the local economy is what sees the real benefit of this.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kernan. We appreciate it. I noticed Mr. Bob Johnson's one of your members back there. Do you have other members here today?
I think just
Just Bob, okay. Well, thank you for being here, Mr. Johnson. We appreciate y'all's service in this. Okay, Ms. Marcia Hilty, Guardian Ad Litem Program, to be followed by T.J. Fish. Ms. Hilty, thank you for being here, but most of all, thanks for what your people do on
Thank
a
you
daily
so very
basis.
much.
Y'all provide such a wonderful service, and we sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you.
So now you're recognized.
Thank you. On behalf of the 400 Lake County children who are currently involved with our dependency courts, I thank you for your support. The Judicial Circuit Guardian Ad Litem Program. As a result of your leadership, beginning July 1 through June 2012, here in Lake County we accomplished the following. We consistently represented over 350 abused and neglected children, most of whom are 8 years of age and younger, with best interest advocacy. We promoted the adoption of over 30 children. We maintained a volunteer workforce of over 150 case-related volunteers and another 100 supporters of the program. We consistently assigned more children to volunteers than any other Guardian Ad Litem program in the state. We achieved top-tier performance scores on the statewide Guardian Ad Litem scorecard. We instituted a transportation project which now allows our volunteers to transport our children. I thank you for approving that legislation. And let me just take a moment to say that this has proven to be a wonderful thing for not only our children, but hearing from my volunteers, they have said that they have derived tremendous satisfaction by having this broadened role wherein they're allowed to take kids out to activities that give them some semblance of a normal life. So thank you so much for passing that legislation. And then finally, courtesy of a tremendous in-kind donation from Clear Channel, which was over $100,000, we have been able to elevate public awareness of the needs of our children in this area, about how they can become involved and help us as a community and therefore make us stronger. The research that has been done on children who are abused and neglected is fairly negative. It has shown that children typically suffer in school, They experience more mental health, drug and alcohol-related problems, impaired social relationships, and oftentimes end up in our correction systems. Research done by our national organization, Court-Appointed Special Advocates, has also shown that by having a volunteer assigned to our children, we can offset these negative results and help our kids be much more successful in life. As Jeb Bush said in his Blue Ribbon panel, there are few programs that cost less yet benefit us more. And I am here today to say thank you for all you've done to support us through the years. I hope you will take note of our legislative budget request, which is asking for $3.9 million in the coming session. Much of that is recurring funds. However, some of it will help benefit our expansion so that we can recruit more volunteers and have broader representation. I thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hilty. Do you know where in this packet that 3.9?
Yes, sir. It should be on your Florida Guardian Ad Litem program fiscal year 13-14 budget overview highlights.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Also, I'm sure there's at least one member of the media here today, and would I be correct in thinking that you would welcome an opportunity to sit with any of the newspaper reporters or any of the TV folks to encourage more people to volunteer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You're right there with me.
Right. And then I have another question too. I mean, I really think that this Guardian Ad Litem program is one of the least known jewels of the state of Florida. And as you earlier said, can be so positively impactful for these young people and for their families. And am I correct in thinking, well, I don't even know what the qualifications are, but could you somehow in that story with the newspaper people, if they're generous enough to run it for you, explain to the readers and to the public what qualifications are necessary? Do you have to have a master's degree in behavioral sciences and all of these other things? Or can some simple-minded person like myself volunteer and be a guardian ad litem?
I'm happy to talk with a reporter about it, but in a nutshell, let me just say that if you're over 21 years of age, and I think all of us probably qualify there, successfully complete a 30-hour training program that we provide, also undergo a level 2 background check, which is very, very strenuous, and have a passion for children, you're on your way to becoming a guardian ad litem.
Just a tremendous program, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please convey our thanks to all your volunteers for what they do. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you for being here. All right, Mr. Fish, Executive Director of the MPO, to be followed by Ms. Sue Cordova of United Way. TJ, how are you?
Great, Senator.
Great. Thank you, sir, for being here, and you're recognized.
Thank you very much. I want to start off by saying the Lake Sumter Metropolitan Planning Organization represents Lake and Sumter counties. The entire Lake County Commission sits on that board, so I appreciate Commissioner Parks being here today, who's chair-elect for the MPO. Commissioner Campio is now our second vice chair, and I appreciate Commissioner Sullivan. In addition to them, we have two commissioners from Sumter County that serve on the MPO. All the cities, all 19 municipalities are represented. So when I'm up in front of you talking about legislative priorities, please understand that I'm talking on behalf of 2 counties and 19 municipalities. The 3 items that my board voted to put as priorities, and we'll talk a little bit more about the other positions. But the first one is a matter of equity that I wanted you to be aware of because it does affect Lake, Sumter, and Marion, as well as 10 other counties. To our east are 4 counties who have the ability today to take to their voters a decision on whether those voters would like to enact up to 1% surtax specifically for transportation. Volusia is interested in it because of transit and Sunrail. Obviously, the other 3 counties have to pay for Sunrail as well. Seminole County has taken such a question to their voters before, and it was passed, and it's sunset, and they built a lot of infrastructure for transportation in Seminole County. They're the model for Central Florida. We're asking equity, that same ability be extended to the other urban counties of Florida. This is not a rural issue. This is in counties where you have urban transportation needs. The The second item, and there's plenty of detail on page 2 to back that up. The second item is the low-hanging fruit. Why is the state gas tax index for consumer price index, but local gas taxes at the county level are not? There's no real explanation except for that's just the way the history of the legislature played it out. Make it equitable at the state and local level, index the county gas taxes. The third item, and Governor Scott was a leader on this last session, you protected the transportation trust fund. And we appreciate that because so often that fund is rated to balance the general fund. And as long as that happens, we're not going to be a leader at the national or global level as the state of Florida when it comes to economic development because we're not investing in transportation infrastructure. So protect that trust fund. And we added on page 2 and number 4 this year. Number 4 says take a look at those particular things that directly impact vehicles like licensing and tags. How about putting those dollars directly into the trust fund for transportation? There's a rational nexus there. A few projects that are in each of your districts I want to talk about. Being new, I know how far north your district is, but we do share the Black Bear Scenic Byway with Marion, and we share it with Putnam County. Ecotourism at its best, so we hope you will continue to support us on that, Centrifugal. In South Lake, Representative Metz, we've got one that Representative O'Toole has helped us on, the Mineola Interchange, real economic development potential if we can get that project started with the interchange being built. Wellness Way, huge issue. The transportation need is there to connect Claremont to the Beltway with the new roadway, because we can't do everything in South Lake with State Road 50 only. But Wellness Way, we're already asking DOT, help us fund the study, because this thing is a big road. This could become a state road before it's over with. Up in the Villages area, we're doing great. We've got I-75 now funded in Sumter County, and we're looking to study 301 and its future. And then the big one, we've got the rail project moving forward. And just to put it on the record, Central Office DOT has been nervous for the last couple of years because we haven't spent that rail money yet. And now all the agreements are signed with 9 different entities, including Orange and Lake counties. We're about to go into construction to replace the old 1920s rail with 21st century continuous rail. And here's the one we need your help on. And I'm looking at Senator Hayes and Representative Nelson. We have been saying to DOT for 7 years, Wakava Parkway, great, we're going to support you on that, but we want that Wakava Trail as part of the deal. And they still have not given us complete assurances. The Lake Sumter NPO Board and the Lake County Commission, this is a very sensitive issue. If DOT doesn't step forward and help us on this trail issue, there's going to be some questions raised about Wakava Parkway, and I don't think anybody wants that. So those are our items, and I'll defer my time. I don't think I have any left.
No, you're Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Fish? All right, we appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right, Ms. Cordova, followed by Mr. John Cherry from Vice Street. Ms. Cordova, United Way. Good luck. She's not here. If she comes in and somebody recognizes her, please point it out to me later on. Mr. Cherry, Live Stream Behavioral Center. He's not here either, but he has sent a delegation. All right, welcome. Please introduce yourself and share with us the information.
Good afternoon. V.E. Thompson, Director of Development with Lightstream Behavioral Center. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about several issues that affect the provision of mental health and substance abuse services provided by Lightstream. 1 in 4 people suffer from mental illness. For 1 in 17, the illness is serious enough to be disabling. 1 in 10 have substance abuse issues. We struggle every day to meet the demands placed upon us by our citizens, their families, law enforcement, the judicial system, our schools, general hospitals, and other healthcare professionals. The demand for services has grown 38.8% in the last 3 years, primarily for indigent care. This has occurred as our state funding has decreased, along with reductions in long-term institution beds operated by the state. We're at a breaking point due to the significantly expanded provision of services for unfunded care over the past 3 years. To sum it up, we have 3 requests today. 1, I have provided you with an executive summary which provides data regarding the tremendous increases in indigent inpatient services provided under the State Baker Act. In fiscal year 2012, LifeStream provided inpatient care for an average of 7.84 patients per day to indigent Baker Act clients, which the state did not fund. Our request is a special project allocation of $550,000 in recurring general revenue to fund an additional 5 inpatient Baker Act beds. Second, the state, through DCF, created a number of new managing entities in fiscal year 2012, which were funded by reducing provider contracts, which resulted in elimination of services. The legislature also reduced funding for mental health and substance abuse services statewide by $12 million. The effect statewide of these two actions resulted in program reductions of approximately $20 million. For LifeStream alone, the reduction was $500,000, with the ME recently saying they had made a mistake in their calculations and that LifeStream's contract would be reduced an additional $100,000. As a result, we had to close a 12-bed residential treatment facility for geriatric patients and further reduce outpatient capacity. We request that these ill-considered reductions be reversed by restoring the $20 million that was cut from provider contracts last July 1st. And finally, if there are to be any technical changes to the North Lake Hospital Taxing District legislation passed last year, we would request that it be clarified that psychiatric outpatient clinics be included as part of the definition of primary care clinics so that we may have reimbursement source for unfunded indigent psychiatric care. We have always been grateful for the support of our delegation and our local community. We hope that you will be able to help us with these requests in the upcoming legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions or comments?
Just a comment.
Representative O'Toole.
I know these cuts have been hard on you all, but I just wanted to comment, you all do a great job down there.
Thank you.
And you help us with public safety as a result of what you do.
That's fine.
And so we will take these under consideration, but as you've heard, there's not a lot of gold in these hills.
Understand.
But I just wanted to tell you that we do appreciate everything you do with that staff.
Thank you very
And
much.
if you pass that along, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. I most certainly will.
All right, thank you. Tell Mr. Cherry we missed him.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Mike Perry, the Lake County Water Authority.
Thanks, Senator. I'm here today with our newly elected chairman, Mr. John Harris. We're here not to ask for any money tonight. We are here to talk about an issue that's we've been working on for the past couple of years. That's related to looting of archaeological resources from public property. The Water Authority owns nearly 7,000 acres around Lake County, and we've been having problems recently with looters that are coming onto the property and digging for artifacts. Not authorized by us or anyone else. They just come in the middle of the night and spend a lot of time and causing a lot of damage to many of our preserves. The existing laws provide protection for state and local government properties, but as a special taxing district that the Water Authority is, we kind of fall through the cracks, and we don't have the same, we're not able to have the same protection of our properties as a state or local government might. The sheriff's deputies who might, there's one who actually lives on our property, isn't able to make an arrest if we were to capture or find one of these looters because there's no county ordinance number that he can cite to make that arrest. We're kind of limited right now to just giving a trespass. If we ever find anybody, you have to catch them, give them a trespass warning, and then catch them again in order to really do anything about it. We tried to work with the county to get put a county ordinance in place, but their legal folks are a little bit resistant to creating an ordinance for properties that they don't own, that we own, but they don't. So they really weren't willing to do that. So again, the only thing we had left to us was trying to issue a trespass warning. Last session, we approached Representative Metz about this particular issue and suggested to him a simple approach would be to add the phrase special taxing districts into the existing law. Apparently, you never use simple and passing legislation in the same language, in the same sentence, because it's not. And maybe we're a little naive from that perspective. But apparently we stirred up some concerns from people who were recreational or even professional artifact hunters, and even those that were like to use the electronic metal detectors on the beaches, and they apparently caused enough of a concern, raised enough of concern to really make this particular legislation sort of die on the vine at the end of the session because of it. We've been back in touch with Representative Metz, and he is apparently willing to use one of his bills to address this issue again this session. We certainly understand the significance of you being willing to use one of your limited number of bills to try to approach this issue. And we've tried to explore every other alternative that we can to resolve this, but we really feel that the only option that's left to us that would really provide the protection that we need is really the bill that we're considering with Representative Metz. The Water Authority Board is fully behind this issue, and we're willing to do whatever we can to help support it. We haven't seen a draft of the bill yet. And also we've been in touch with the sheriff, and the sheriff is certainly behind it as well, and is willing to put his support and try to get the Sheriff Association with their support behind it. So what we're seeking today is to, first of all, thank Representative Metz if you still are able to continue with this bill, and ask that the remaining delegation to support it as well. We feel that it's a very significant issue. The county actually has similar issues on some of their properties with looters coming on. They actually were out on one of their properties and had, with the media, and came across somebody who was looting when they had a TV camera out there with them. So that helps if you can do that, but they've got the law on their side. We unfortunately don't. Excuse me, and would certainly request any assistance we can.
Okay.
Delegation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Perry. Any comments or questions, Representative Metz?
I do have the bill back in drafting again, and I've talked to the agency, the Department of State, about getting some language from them to add to the bill that would have a carve-out for the amateur, avocational metal detector user on a public beach. That's not what we're attempting to do to prohibit that type of behavior. That's actually something that people do frequently. There's no consequences to that when they just sit through the sand on the beach looking for lost quarters and so forth. So I asked for a carve-out provision on that, and also for the isolated find, the situation where maybe a Boy Scout on a camp out picks up an arrowhead on a creek bed. We never intended for anything like that to be prescribed by the bill. So we want to have some safe harbors for those types of activities in the new bill. So I'm working with the agency on that, and I'm also encouraging them to reach out to the Florida League of Cities and the Florida Association of Counties to make sure that they're on board with it. So I'll bring that draft bill back to you, Senator Hayes, and we can brainstorm that further if you would like. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can tell you, Representative Metz and I lost our opportunity last year to run for national office because that bill created such a firestorm of emails, literally from California to Virginia and many points in between. We were getting 200 and 300 emails per day opposing that bill. And it was the professional salvage corporations saying, man, you're going to destroy our industry, which was never our intent. And then, as Representative Metz alluded to, we had the minor amateurs with the little beep-beep machines saying, you're going to kill me. No. And the thing did not die on the vine. I pulled the plug on it. And I said, forget it. This thing has far-reaching implications we never imagined. We're going to stop the progress of this bill right now, and we'll get some time to go back and try to take care of these things. So good luck, Representative Metz. Bring me the bill, and let's see if we can do it. But you're right, Mr. Perry. What seems to be simple and really concise and to the point, when it gets to Tallahassee, it takes on a new life of its own. And you have lived through the example of it, and so did we. So thanks for being here. We'll do what we can for you, and certainly welcome any help that the county attorney might be able to draft an ordinance to help the county and the Water Authority both in their protecting their property. Okay, Mr. Eddie Fitzgerald of the American Lung Association, to be followed by Mr. Ralph Udick from Lady Lake. Mr. Fitzgerald? He's not here. Okay. Mr. Udick? And Mr. John Frame will be coming after Mr. Udick. Thank you for being here, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you, sir.
I'm actually going to tell them to give you all the money you want.
Honorable legislators, my
name is Ralph Udick. I live in Lady Lake in Lake County. I'm a member of the Harbor Hills Homeowners Association. Harbor Hills is a developer-controlled association. We have been under developer control for over 23 years, and it could be another 23 years or more before the parcel owners can obtain control under our documents. We have no vote. We don't elect our directors. We essentially have taxation and governance without representation. I'm here today to urge you to enact under Chapter 720 to provide regulatory enforcement of the Homeowners Association law by the DBPR and to establish an ombudsman to protect the parcel owners. This would provide the same protection that the unit owners in condominiums have enjoyed for decades under Chapter 718. The more than 5 million Floridians who live in homeowners associations deserve no less. This is a matter of equal protection of the law. At long last, I urge you to enact this law this year. The immediate benefit of DBPR regulation will be better protection of our property rights under the law. It will also reduce litigation significantly. Today, litigation is about the only recourse whenever reason and dialogue fail. But litigation is not a real option for the overwhelming majority of parcel owners, especially retirees on fixed incomes. The ombudsman and DBPR enforcement will alleviate much of our grievances. It's the right thing to do. Please enact it now. Unfortunately, litigation is a fact of life. The association's government documents are contracts. Virtually all of these contracts are drafted by developers to give their businesses maximum advantage under the law. This is especially true before control is turned over. In the 20 years since the homeowners associations were first regulated in 1992 under Chapter 617, you, the legislature, has enacted many laws to limit potential abuses by developers. Unfortunately, a favorite tactic by lawyers, which is condoned by the courts, is to claim unconstitutional contract impairment to thwart the will of the people. A powerful solution to counter this is for the legislature to express its reservation of the power to amend or repeal in Chapter 720. I'd like to read the section from Chapter 607, which is the Florida Business Corporation Act, specifically Chapter 607.0102. Reservation
Mr.
of the
Udick,
power...
excuse me just a minute, sir. Can this be real quick because your 3 minutes are up? I don't want you to read the 3 or 4 pages.
Then I will not even read that because it's in the 2 sheets that I handed to you. So
very good.
I just want to close then to say that enacting this reservation as well as the definition of special assessment, which is contained in 718 and 720, will clarify the law and really help the homeowners, in the case that they do have to go to court. So I've attached a pretty heavy enclosure also, which is something that John Freeman and I have recommended that you consider, and hopefully it'll make some sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a minute, please. Representative Nelson.
Just a question, just in layman's terms, what's the percentage of lots or parcels do before they have to turn over? Is statute today?
No, that's a very good question, sir. That actually, the true answer is it depends on what your governing documents, which is the contract that I was telling you about. If you were created after 1 October 1995, I'm talking about the Homeowners Association Incorporated, then it's 90%. In other words, when 90% of all the parcels in the PUD are conveyed, then turnover begins. But our association was created before that, so our documents essentially says that as long as the developer holds the least interest in one of the lots, he doesn't have to turn it over. So, of course, you could force it through litigation and so forth, but it's not an option for normal people. That's why we need the legislature to give us a helping hand, because it is the will of the people.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Budick, we appreciate this. Mr. John Frame, to be followed by Kathy Williams from AARP. Thank you for being here, Mr. Frame, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I want to enhance a little bit on what Bob was just talking about. We have a pass up for you. I want to make sure that I'm talking about developer control HOA, not just simply HOA. Because under developer HOA, chapter 720, basically is unconstitutional to the people living in the community. We have no right to vote. We don't get to vote on assessments or people on the board. In fact, we have no democratic rights at all under a developer-controlled HOA. And this year you're going to see, I know that in the bill writing committee, and we're going to talk about it for a moment, there is a bill writing going on to enhance chapter 720. What I hope to do with you guys today is to enhance your thoughts about changes that absolutely need to be done for chapter 720. To do that, I've just picked on 3 particular issues on it. The first is the control of the HOA. As I said, we don't get to vote on the directors. We're seeing in chapter 720, as the developer sells a certain percentage, then we should be able to elect a developer. And you'll see that in the backup that I've given you there. Let me come back to your question about the 90%. Let me give you a classic example of what chapter 720 does to us. In our particular case, where documents do say 90%, you have to turn it over. Well, what happens is that when the developer gets to a certain point and then applies to and gets a revised PUD, he picks up extra lots. So therefore, here we are now, 23 years later, and the developer is still in control. And quite frankly, I think I will be dust before I see him done. So that's in that pass-up that I asked you to be aware of. Another big item, and you guys have been through this all your legislative careers, get the vote out. We propose that in chapter 720, all voting that requires a majority vote must be by people in person or by proxy. Think it through for a moment, some of the elections you've been through. You know, I see reports where you get 25 or 30% of the registered voters out. Well, they become automatic votes in the majority. That needs to be changed very dramatically. So keep that in mind, please. Now, the final one is the ombudsman. We have no place to go in Tallahassee or any government agency to enforce the developer to protect our rights. We absolutely need the same protection that the condo association does. As far as funding is concerned, we would propose, and I think you're going to see it, that we will pay for that by assessing $4 for every member payable once a year. So it's really, we got to get the ombudsman. Anything that we're talking about on chapter 720, that is the most critical issue. Now, my request to you is to become very familiar with what we're trying to get done with chapter 720. My name, my phone number, my email address is on the front of that packet there. Feel free to call me. Feel free to call me and say, you need to go talk to so-and-so. Because we need to increase the awareness of all of the legislators on this particular issue. So, please be aware of particularly the ombudsman. We desperately need that, guys. So on that basis, then, thank you for allowing me to be here. And this is going to be a good year, guys, so happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We appreciate it. Any questions or comments? No? All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. All right. Ms. Kathy Williams, AARP, to be followed by Todd Parrish, Americans for Prosperity. Thanks for being here, Ms. Williams. You're recognized.
Well, thanks for having me here. My name is Kathy Williamson, and I do live in...
I'm sorry, it's Williamson?
Yeah, that's...
Okay, I'll add
that's
the
common. That's common.
Okay.
And I do appreciate being able to address everybody here. As you are, I'm sure, all aware, AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization, and we're dedicated to making life better for all people as they age, as we find that we all do. As we're getting ready for the 2013 session, I'd like to focus on 3 points that are important focus areas for AARP. The first issue is nursing home staffing levels. The link between the number of hours of nursing care per resident and the overall quality of care these residents receive has been studied and documented. But it's not surprising. It's something that we would all figure there would be a link between the number of hours of real nursing care and quality of care for the patients in nursing homes. In 2001, the legislature established a minimum level of 3.9 hours per resident per day of nursing staffing. Even though this minimum is less than what the CMS recommended, it did result in better care, fewer adverse events in nursing homes, and fewer claims and awards against nursing homes. In more recent years, the legislature has temporarily adjusted the minimum staffing levels in response to tight budgets. We understand this. We understand what tight budgets are. But in the 2011 session, the minimum number of nursing care hours required by law was reduced by nearly 8%. History has shown us that this will result in less attention paid to residents' basic needs, greater discomfort, and higher risks of dehydration and infection. It's also likely to increase the number of emergencies and hospitalizations, and of course, these are all harmful and very costly results. So we urge the legislature to reinstate the nursing home staffing levels to the 3.9 hours of direct nursing care that were previously in the statutes. We do believe that Florida should be focused on keeping nursing in nursing homes. And the second issue, more and more of us look first to assisted living facilities as we find we need help with our daily activities. Our second request is for the legislature to put preventive measures in place, such as increased training and credentialing for assisted living facility staff and administrators, and enhanced regulatory authority over assisted living facility operations. The last request, we understand and appreciate Florida's constitutional requirement to balance its annual budget. AARP supports businesses that are located in Florida. These businesses employ our citizens and contribute in so many ways to our state's economy. Because of this, we urge the legislature to join with the state's business community to support collecting taxes on internet and other forms of remote retail transactions. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them directly or direct you to somebody else in our AARP state staff.
Any questions?
Questions?
I have one, if I may. Y'all are a volunteer organization, is that correct?
Yes, I'm a volunteer.
You're a volunteer, okay. Is your organization prepared to volunteer to staff the phones and the emails that we will, so that we can reply to the constituents who complain about the taxes that are going to be raised to fund all these things on your wish list here? And I'm not trying to be funny at all. I'm serious. You need to sit where we sit and see the stack of emails that come in a very short period of time.
I understand that there's tax implications with the internet sales tax request, which of course currently law says that those should be collected, but there's not a good means of doing that. So essentially we have a way for people who do purchase things through the internet, and I know our citizens benefit by getting around the law and purchasing through the internet for out-of-state companies, but that's a workaround to the state sales tax laws. And so we do believe those state sales tax laws should be implemented fairly across all transactions that our citizens engage in. I don't know of the other, I guess I'm not enough of a policy in-depth person to know that there's tax implications to the others.
Well, you're a volunteer who's trying to do a good thing, and we appreciate that, and we commend you for it. And my concern, though, is all these things are good things, but we have to understand there's no place of funding that is readily available. We have thousands, literally thousands of people come to the legislature every year asking for funding for this project, all of which, or at least most of which, are good projects. But I have yet in my 8 years to have anybody come up there and say, here's a program, we don't need it, take it away. nor have I had anybody come up and say, you know, here's a source of money, we're gonna bless you with it. It's a tough job, it really is. And we thank you for your input, for your volunteer hours, all that sort of thing. But y'all are asking for some pretty hefty programs here. So we will take it under advisement.
Appreciate that. We appreciate all the work that you do.
Okay, thank you for being here. Yes, ma'am. All right, Mr. Todd Parrish, Americans for Prosperity, to be followed by Mr. Cliff Cale.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. I'm with Americans for Prosperity. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan organization or policy think tank out of Washington, D.C. We have 2.9 million advocates nationwide. We have almost 300,000 in the state of Florida. We are presenting a plan called Fire for Florida. It's a plan that we put together about a year ago. We've had the chairman meeting with Speaker Weatherford and Senator Gates, as well as the governor's office. Many of these issues you will be hearing in committee, as committee staff are currently looking at a lot of these policies. Number one is reform taxes and corporate welfare. We're asking the legislature to eliminate the corporate income tax and take a look at all of the the targeted business tax credits. Last year, $3.2 billion were taken out of the budget due to tax exemptions, and they're currently listed into the credit tax code. Second is the don't take financial promises that the taxpayers can't keep. Florida has the fourth largest pension system in the state of Florida. The state legislature funds about 77% of the pension plan, which is $5.5 billion. $11 billion a year is needed to remain sovereign. The Americans for Prosperity is not asking at all to change the pension system for current state employees, fire and rescue. We're looking at forward, from today forward, creating a 401k plan or a plan that state employees and other county and city employees can put into their own plan to prevent the state of Florida having to take out billions of dollars to fund what we currently already have. The third is be stewards of good, transparent government. This issue came to us by our Chief Financial Officer, Jeff Atwater. Jeff came to us last year and said this past year alone, the state of Florida could have saved $13 billion by poorly written contracts and poorly managed contracts that are assigned by the state legislature. $13 billion. He gave an example of a lady in Miami that receives $1 million a year. Her job, her contract is that she is to mentor high school students and help them to receive college placement. Her only assignment in that contract is to build the state of Florida. There's absolutely no accountability measures. She's not to report back how many students she meets with. She's not required to report back to the state her success rate or any other things. And so that issue's on this, the request of Chief Financial Officer Jeff Atwater. Fourth is pretty simple. It's empowering parents, continuing to empower parents with the ability to control their child's education, whether it's charter schools, home schools, allowing them to pick a school that's more appropriate for their child, whether it's transferring them from a D school to an A school, etc. And final is fifth. Florida is the fourth most burdensome regulated state in the nation. We are seventh most licensing state in the nation. 1 week delay in getting a Florida organization or Florida company started, which created 173,236 jobs in 2009. The cost to the state of Florida in a 1 week delay of creating jobs was $9.9 million last year. The simple it's called Fire for Florida. I know Representative Representative O'Toole and you, Mr. Chairman, have endorsed this plan. Over the past year, we've had over 90 candidates that were running for the House and Senate and elected officials endorse our plan statewide. We have great communication with the Speaker and Senate President and the Governor's office, and look forward to hearing more about this plan this coming legislative session. So hopefully, Mr. Chairman, these ways will save the state of Florida money and fund some of these programs.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Any comments or questions? All right. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Cliff Cale. Apparently not here. Okay. Mr. Jan Bergerman. Cyber Citizens for Justice, to be followed by Mr. Robert Nicholson from Lady Lake.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Candidate, Representative. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Jan Bergman. I'm President of Cyber Citizens for Justice. an organization which started over 10 years ago as an online forum for people living in condominiums and homeowners associations, just to ask questions and get some information. GCFJ has now grown to be Florida's largest statewide property owner the organization dealing with community associations. I was a member of Governor Jeb Bush's HOA task force in 2003-2004, at a time when the real estate market and economy was still in full bloom. I'm here today mainly to thank Senator Hayes for his efforts to help us in our cause and file a bill. The final wording is still worked on in bill drafting. And I would like to ask all the members of the Lake County Delegation to support Senator Hayes' office in the upcoming legislative session. The Florida's real estate market was one of the biggest income sources for Florida all the time. Retirees, snowbirds, and private investors came to Florida. We were the #1 goal for these people from up north who were sick and tired of shoveling snow. And nowadays we are only #3 behind the Carolinas and Arizona because of the bad reputation Florida has gotten, because there is absolutely a total lack of consumer protection in homeowners association, and we are leading more or less all bad charts you can see in any kind of statistics. When people come here to Florida, they want to retire, they want to see the white beaches, the sunshine, and the many attractions we offer here in Florida, but then they hear about the problems caused in these associations, and the people going back up north to visit relatives and former friends will tell the stories, and big newspapers tell the stories as well. It is important that we make Florida attractive again for snowbirds, retirees, and private investors, because our real estate market is still the #1 source for income. And so I would like to ask you to support the HOA reform bill in this upcoming session. Please help your constituents and help Florida to deal with these serious issues. We really need your help, and we want to be the sunshine state again we have been before. Thank you very much. And I want to say one thing. We are not asking for any money. I listen to all these things. All we want is an HOA reform bill which will, according to our suggestions, not cost the state of Florida one dime. Actually, the Condo Trust Fund, which is more or less the same thing which we propose for HOA, actually has money left over every year. And according to OPAGA, 2.5 million homes are in homeowners associations here in Florida, which would give us a budget of $10 million. For that, you can build the Cadillac of the regulatory agency. Thank you very much for listening to our concerns.
Comments or questions? Mr. Bergman, do you know Mr. Udick, Mr. Frame back there?
Yes.
Sounds like you three are on the same page. So,
yes, we are.
Very good. All right, Mr. Robert Nicholson, followed by Craig Boston, Lady Lake. Mr. Nicholson is not here. Okay. Mr. Bloxham, thank you for being here, sir. You're recognized.
Yeah, live in the community of Harbor Hills, and I wanted to address on a more personal basis some of the problems that we have by not having any say in our HOA. I moved there in 2007, and it's a community of about 600 people. And within a year after I moved there, the developer announced his intentions, and he's president of our HOA, to change our bylaws and make membership in the country club a mandatory thing. And with more than half of the people not having anything to do with the country club, that was a real problem. Myself, I only live in Harbor Hills 6 months, and I live up north 6 months, so it doesn't make sense to spend $7,000 a year being a member for the country club. I just like to play golf occasionally. So we as a community, there's 240 of us, we formed our own association called POHH, which is Property Owners of Harbor Hills. And I've given you our summer newsletter, my field of expertise is real estate. I've been a Florida real estate broker for 28 years. I'm a retired Florida builder, and I've built 800 homes in golf course gated communities. And I was 1993 Lee County, Florida Builder of the Year, actually. And there's a lot of things that are wrong in what's happening in our community in the real estate, and there's self-serving things that our developer has implemented. And I've gone over them in detail, and I hope you'll take the time to read that article in there. But basically, it's restricted gate access, no signage, not allowed to tour our facilities. Our developer tries to steer everybody to his own real estate company. And it's really sad, because what's happened is a home that was purchased in the Villages for $300,000 5 years ago is worth $100,000 more than a home purchased for the same price in Harbor Hills right now. And that's a huge discrepancy because of, and I've got all those specific comparables in that article. So anyway, I've written him a lot about my concerns about real estate and the way he treats non-club members. And I wrote him this last February, and 3 days later I was playing golf with my wife and another couple, and he sent the pro out and to inform me that I've been banned for life from ever playing golf at Harbor Hills. And this is a semi-private public facility. And furthermore, I was totally banned from ever setting foot on country club property. And the reason for my banning was he had taken offense to my letter. And so these are kind of extreme things that we're living under there. And part of the problem with the homeowners association and not having any say in our homeowners association, I just wanted to relate that to you, and just wanted you to understand the importance of the situation we have here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Blossom. Any comments or questions from anyone? Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, Ms. Lori Humphrey, Shared Services Network, and then we have some others that were not on the agenda when we first began the meeting.
Good afternoon. I was going to say congratulations for last, but guess not. I am Lori Humphrey. I'm the project manager for Lake County Shared Services Network, and this is Kim Revere. She is with the Department of Children and Families. And we wanted to speak to you just for a few minutes on the Human Trafficking Task Force and proclamation that we have going on here in Lake County. As legislators, I'm sure you've heard a lot lately about human trafficking. It's kind of that hot button right now. And unfortunately, it's something that we have to address, and we're trying to be proactive here in Lake County. As you know, we're right in the center of the state, and so it makes us a prime target for traffickers, either settling here in Lake County or moving their clientele through. And so we wanted to be proactive and have our things in place, so when we do have an issue of that sort come down, then we're prepared for it, that we don't have to scramble to figure out what we're going to do with victims, how we're going to address the crime. We're going to know exactly what to do and how to do it and when to do it, so that's done appropriately. So one of the first things we wanted to do was align ourselves with the federal and state proclamations, and so that's what we've done. And this is very timely because, as you know, January 11th is the National and State Human Trafficking Awareness Day. And so here in Lake County, we have also adopted that. And on the next Board of County Commissioners meeting, we'll be addressing this proclamation. Do you have copies of that in front of you? So we brought extra copies of the proclamation.
As far as I know, we don't have.
Okay. It's very simply written. It just gives you some statistics that are current statistics and then states how we're going to align ourselves with that. I wanted to introduce you to Kim because she is in the trenches every day and sees firsthand what's going on
on with human trafficking and what we're doing as a task force. She is also our chairperson of the Lake County Task Force.
Hi, good afternoon. Very briefly, as I'm sure you guys are all aware, human trafficking has become a major issue for us with the Department of Children and Families. We know that this is a $34 billion a year industry internationally, and it's, in terms of criminal enterprise, it's only second to illegal drug trade. It continues to be an issue for us throughout Florida. We're consistently, year after year, in the top 3 with regards to the number of individuals trafficked through our state. We average about 20,000 a year is what we're averaging. While our task force is designed to look at all aspects of human trafficking and to be prepared to respond, we're really focused on domestic minor sex trafficking. Obviously, this is a population that affects the majority of us, the Shared Services Network with the school district, DJJ, our local law enforcement, Department of Children and Families, the Guardian ad litem. We're all focused on addressing the needs of our children. With regards to the task force, our main focus, we've been structured for approximately a year, and our main focus has really been in establishing our relationships, in putting together our infrastructure, and ensuring that once we begin to raise awareness and education, we're prepared to respond to the identification of victims. So that's really essentially what we've done. We've had tremendous support from law enforcement in Lake County. Lieutenant Todd English is the co-chair from the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Borders has indicated that he will be supportive 100% of our task force, and Lieutenant English has had the opportunity to meet with all the chiefs in Lake County, and they have also provided all of their support. So at this point, we've identified our infrastructure. We have an ability to respond, and our next step is going to be to educate law enforcement. We have completed the education of all child protection investigators for the Department of Children and Families for the whole central region, and we are starting to see, following that education, an increase in identification of these cases. So we do anticipate that once we complete the education of law enforcement, that we are going to see an increase in Lake County cases, and hopefully we'll be in a really good place to respond. So thank you for your time.
Questions, comments? All right. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it, and thanks for what you're trying to do to help people out. We certainly appreciate that. Oh, no, you're right. Very ugly work, but thanks to people that are doing the job they are. Okay, Mr. Vance Jokum, fiscalrangers.com. Thanks for being here, sir. You're recognized.
I didn't find out until about 6 hours ago that this meeting was being held, so I would encourage better publicity of future meetings like this, because I know there were people that did not come because they had no clue that this meeting was being held. My background, for those, a couple of you that don't really know, I write a blog on local fiscal issues for local government. I've been attending county board meetings, school district meetings, hospital district meetings for about 5 to 6 years. And I've been writing a blog. And what I've come to the conclusion, I'm going to talk about just state issues primarily related to oversight, because I was a corporate internal auditor in Fortune 500 companies. I was involved with setting up the anti-corruption agency in Iraq for 2 years. And I've come to the conclusion that Florida is still a huckster state because of lack of oversight on many different areas. And so what I'm briefly going to do is just to read you some things to consider. And I'm not asking for too much money, although since this is Lake County and I've gone to school board meetings and the Lake County board meetings, give them all the money they want, because they can reduce the mandates that they have if possible. First, I support Lake County request to study Agenda 21. I know that Senator Hayes has been talking about proposed legislation to reverse Agenda 21. There have been several states that have done it. Oklahoma's in the news now. Georgia has been in the news about researching it. And as you know, Alabama has already passed such legislation. I support legislation to prohibit the use of foreign law. I think Representative Metz is working on that. I support the creation of an elected auditor or inspector general for each county. I moved here from California in 2006. We had an elected auditor controllers there, and they were very good at doing a lot of things, including performance audits. What I found here is there's absolutely no orientation towards doing performance audits to ensure efficiency, effectiveness, and economy in many areas. Just yesterday, if you read the Daily Commercial, there was an audit that was issued for Lake County's animal services, and over a 3-year period, they forewent, they forego, they gave up, they did not issue renewal notices for pet licenses, and they gave up about $3 million in income over a 3-year period. That's my estimate. I would support legislation to expand the duties of all school district auditors to include performance audits, because the wording is very narrow. I've talked to Representative Metz about that, and it's been interpreted by some school district attorneys as saying you can't do performance audits. In other words, they have a district auditor, they're paying him, the state allows you to have a district auditor, but then they say, well, you can't, the attorney will stand there like here in Lake County and say you can't audit for efficiency, effectiveness, and economy. Now, I came from the corporate world, and I was an internal auditor for 20 years, including at Nissan, Argo, the oil company, and they all did that. I support expanded oversight of constitutional officers. There is no oversight on them. There are no performance audits on them. There are no independent financial statements. It's usually included in the county statements. There are no public hearings on budgets. There's no public hearings on spending. The sheriff here has half the income for the county, and yet there is no oversight or public meetings, and he didn't even publish details of his budgets on his website. It's very hard to get. So I seriously question, as a corporate auditor who's worked in federal government, County of Los Angeles, as well as corporations, the lack of oversight over organizations like this.
Mr. Junkum, let me interrupt you. Your 3 minutes is up. Could you give us copies of that? Did you bring
I'm
copies for
going
us?
to give him this. I will write it up because I didn't have enough notice. I would have written up something and asked to get on the regular agenda, but didn't find out about it.
I mean, if I just email it to each one of us, you can have our email address. I'm sure that'd be great. Yeah. We appreciate your work on this.
And no internet taxes, please.
Well, okay. Any comments or questions, Mr. Junkum? All right. Now we have Ms. Lucille S.P. Francis from the League of Women Voters. And is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the delegation today? If so, please come down and see Ms. Hodges right here. Let us know, and we'd be happy to entertain you. Thank you, Ms. Francis, for being here. You're recognized.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Lucille S.P. Francis. I represent the League of Women Voters, the village unit. That's the Tri-County area. We have served, the League has served as a respected nonpartisan organization for over 90 years. Started out before women actually had the right to vote. I have 3 areas I want to talk very briefly about, and I promise to keep it very brief. The first one that's near and dear to the League of Women Voters' hearts is the election system, the things that have happened recently. We're concerned to be sure that all eligible citizens are able to conveniently exercise their right to vote. As you know, in the 2012 election, which had 6-hour lines and returns that were delayed for days, there was a lot of work that we could see we needed to do, and we have 4 suggestions. The League stands ready to assist with these 4 suggestions. First is to institute a uniform number of early voting sites in each county based on population. Create an early voting schedule that runs 2 full weeks at a minimum. Allow the supervisors of elections more flexibility in choosing early voting sites, and establish a permanent Florida voter registration system so that Floridians who have moved within the state can easily update their addresses at the polls on election day and still cast a regular ballot instead of a provisional ballot. Our local league does have planned for February 25th in Lady Lake at the community building a conference with people that were involved in the Lake County voting and in the 3 supervisor elections of the 3 counties, Marion, Sumter, and Lake County. Will be there to confer about what happened in the election in the last year in our local area, but this is a statewide issue that we're talking about. The second priority for the League of Women Voters is ethics reform. We believe in open government, and we urge the support of laws that help increase transparency and accountability. We ask that you pass legislation this year that will grant the Florida Commission on Ethics the authority to begin its own investigations, create an anti-corruption hotline, expand the ethics code to include all who touch public money, including vendors, require top officials to disclose major transactions, and to create an online filing system for financial disclosure. Thirdly, in the area of taxation and revenue, we are not providing you with any paperwork, and we're not asking for any money, but we do suggest internet taxation. I can see there are technical difficulties, but I think that's got to happen. And finally, in the area of education, we urge you to get a free public system, or keep a free public, I can't say that.
Free public?
Free public.
There you go.
A free public school system with high standards for school achievement, which are financed adequately by the state. We oppose the implementation of policies such as the so-called parent trigger that would turn public schools over to private, for-profit companies. And we suggest that any private or charter school that receives state funding be held to the same standards for testing and student achievement as public schools. I would like to thank you and appreciate that you've been very patient without not a single chance to take a break today. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Francis, Representative O'Toole has a question, please.
Can you tell me when that meeting is again, that the 3 election supervisors are meeting in Lady Lake?
It's last Monday in February 25th, and it's either 10 or 10:30 at the Lake County Community Building there behind the library.
Thank you.
I hope you'll come.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak to the delegate? Yes, sir, Mr. Frank.
I'm not going to cost you any money.
Mr. John Frank.
For most of you, I'd like for you to be aware that Senator Hayes got me appointed to the investor-owned water system study committee that we're going to follow the report in February. Ms. Representative O'Toole supported it. I want all you guys to know that I've learned an awful lot. But what I really want to tell you is that having sat through some of the great commission meetings in the past, and come away saying, how in the world could you prove that rate from any water? I want you to know that the people I've interacted with on the Public Services Commission staff, they are tremendous. We got some fine people working in government in Tallahassee, and I just simply wanted you to know how much I appreciate that opportunity. And also to tell you that the people, other people that volunteered on this thing, have devoted a lot of time to this, and you're gonna see some great recommendations come February. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Frank, for saying that. It's easy for those of us who work with these people on a daily basis to recognize the quality, but it means so much more coming from a person like yourself who recognizes the dedication of the state workers. So many times these folks get a bad rap, and the people of Florida are very fortunate to have our workforce that's there striving to do the best thing they can. Yeah, I will certainly pass your comments on to, matter of fact, sometime, I believe it's next week, I'm meeting with Executive Director of the PSC, Mr. Braulio. I will pass your comments on to him and to Chairman Brzee, and thank you for pointing that out. It's very nice of you. Okay? Yes, sir. Should we call you Senator Baker or Praiser Baker?
Mr. Chairman, you can call me anything you'd like.
I'll call you my friend, sir. You're recognized.
Gary Baker, Lake County Property Appraiser. A couple issues I'd like to mention. I was just thinking about. One of them is one that I spoke to Representative Brian Nelson about, and that deals directly with the Property Appraiser's office and the ability for us to save the taxpayers a lot of money. And that first issue is, as you know, we do a lot of mailings, and one of those is a trend notice where we let folks know about the proposed property taxes and such. Well, that's all mailed out by law, and it's rather costly. It's very expensive. And Representative Nelson has a great idea that we spoke about, and that is where we can transition that into an email, particularly if a lot of folks, that's how they'd rather have it. And if we could get to the point where we could be emailing a large portion of these, I mean, the savings is measured in thousands of dollars. And for instance, in my office, our operating budget, not the payroll stuff, it's only about $250,000. Well, you save me $10,000 and yahoo! That's a big deal. And it should be a big deal. And so that's an issue that I think is very important to property appraisers, the taxpayers, and it's one that Representative Nelson is going to champion. So I thought that I needed to bring that up to your attention. And then one other issue before my 3 minutes expires. is that several years ago, we gave the Value Adjustment Board, that's sort of the appeals board that hears value challenges and exemption challenges. We gave them the authority to sort of independently go and look at various exemptions and remove those exemptions. Like they could go in and look at the ag exemptions that I would have granted and said, oh, you know, Baker was just wrong, and they could remove a lot of exemptions. And I would never expect that here in Lake County. But I could see that in some county thinking that might be an easy way to raise more tax revenue is to have the Value Adjustment Board do a wholesale review of exemptions and remove a lot of those, which would immediately increase the taxes to the local county. And so anyway, I just think that it's statutorily, constitutionally, the tax appraiser or the property appraisers were given authority to determine by state law whether those exemptions are qualified or not. And I think we made a mistake when we allowed the Value Adjustment Board to go in there and really not have the expertise to make sort of wholesale changes or challenges to these. So hopefully that will be an issue that also comes before the legislature maybe this year. And those are just two issues I wanted to bring up. I think both are good for the taxpayers. Both are strong property owner issues, and if you do see those, and I don't have really all the particulars, you know, the legislature, you guys will figure out how to do it right, but I just want to mention those to you.
I think Senator Eagle, don't you chair Finance and Tax in the Senate? Perhaps it would be profitable for you to have a conversation with her.
Absolutely.
Let Representative Nelson lead the battle in the House.
Sure.
Get good things happen.
Yes,
sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Senator Baker? All right. Thank you, sir. Congratulations on your new job.
And you're all, now, well, some of you can't make it, but I have my swearing in for my elected term next Tuesday at 4:30 at the Lake County Property Appraiser's office, and you're more than welcome, 4:30 next Tuesday.
Thank you.
I know those of you that sit on the Marion County delegation can't make it because you have a delegation meeting.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. Any other business needs to come before the Lake County delegation? Seeing and hearing none. Without objection, Representative Nelson moves we rise. Thank you, folks. Hey, folks, I made a gross error and oversight. Dr. Mojok has left, but I want to thank him. For those of you on the Lake Sumter State College staff, please pass on to Dr. Mojok our sincere appreciation for your hospitality today. The sound man has been absolutely wonderful. The hospitality, the coffee pot back here, the lunch and everything, we really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Thank you all for being here.